Today we're making our way across the bridge from Ischia Island to visit the Aragon Castle of Ischia. This is arguably Ischkia's top tourist attraction. The complex sits upon its own rock and is a must visit if you're on the island. In this video I'll take you around the castle on the tourist route and show you everything you'll see, and tell you a little about the history of the castle and each building we pass, and show you the food and drink options. Incidentally, you're also able to book hotel rooms inside the castle for an unforgettable stay, and as a day visitor to the castle you're therefore not able to access some areas, such as here, or even here. But there's still lots to see on your visit, so let's get going. Through the small entrance archway you arrive at the ticket office. The visit costs €12 at the time of recording in 2024, and you're also handed a leaflet with some information which is available in different languages. With tickets in hand you now have a choice to climb the many stairs up through the rock to the castle, or turn right and enter a tunnel which takes you to a lift up to the top of the castle if you need to. Just a note here though, this castle tour is not accessible for wheelchair users or those with reduced mobility, as there's still more steps to climb on the route around the castle even if you do take the lift. Anyway, we chose to walk up the steps, so as we ascend I'll tell you the history of the castle. So this fortress beside the island of Ischia dates back to 474 BC, when an initial structure was built here by the Greek Syracusan leader Hero I. This rock was given to him as a gift by the Cumaeans for him coming to their aid in a battle against the Tyrrhenians, and over time it developed into the central defence of the island. By 315 BC the Romans had established a town on Ischia, and it's believed that they used the fortress as a defence blockhouse. Over the centuries, the fortifications evolved through successive conquests and regimes through to a significant event in 1301. When the volcano Mount Ipomeo in the centre of Ischia erupted, this drove many islanders to seek refuge in the fortress, and this started an evolution where the fortress became more of a town. In 1441, Alphonse of Aragon reinforced the fortress with new walls and connected it to the main island via a wooden bridge, which was later replaced by a stone one which we crossed on the way in. The castle saw its golden age in the late 16th century, housing nearly 2,000 families, religious institutions and military forces, making it a thriving community and protecting them from the many pirate attacks in the seas around Naples at that time. After the threat of piracy diminished in the 18th century, the inhabitants gradually moved back to more comfortable lands on the island, especially as the fortress was suffering from overcrowding. The fortress faced destruction in 1809 when the English bombarded it during the Napoleonic Wars, and many buildings were lost or damaged beyond repair. However, over the following decades it transitioned into a prison, initially for life-sentenced criminals and later for political prisoners under the Bourbon regime. In 1860, following Garibaldi's reunification of Italy, the political prison was closed and the island of Ischia became part of the new Italian kingdom. In 1911, the current private owners took charge of the fortress and began a lengthy process of restoration and preservation. So that was a brief history of the castle, and we've made it up to the main gate and the guard post on the right. It's quite a climb, so catch your breath and enter into the building to visit the small museum here of military items and some gruesome torture devices. Returning back outside, we go through the gates and guess what? There's some more steps to climb. As you go, you'll start to see some great views of Ischia Island, but don't worry too much here about photos, as there's better to come as you go higher up. So let's continue on climbing up and up. We finally made it. Well, actually we made the largest part of the climb. There's still more to do. There's a small coffee shop here which was closed on our visit, but I took a photo of the drinks menu here and you can see what's on offer and the kind of prices being charged. This terrace does give you amazing views of Ischia Ponte and right the way across to Mount Epomeo. This is now where your tour actually begins. Helpfully, each item is numbered in sequence, so we're heading up some more steps to point number 1. And here it is, the Terrace of the Immaculata, which affords some great views of the same stuff we just saw down below. Still looks great, I have to admit. And right beside it is stop number 2, the Church of the Blessed Virgin of the Assumption, also known as the Church of the Immaculate Conception. Construction of this church began in 1737 at the request of Mother Superior from the adjacent convent, which we're going to see in a moment. It was built on the site of a former chapel dedicated to St. Francis. However, the construction proved to be extremely expensive due to its size and architectural complexity, particularly its large dome. The convent, already facing financial difficulties, was forced to sell its silverware to cover costs, yet the church was never fully completed and its walls remain plain white to this day. The church's layout follows a Greek cross plan, with the main aisle more developed than the other arms. Today it's used in an exhibition space, and on our visit was set out with these large vases. And right next door it's the convent I mentioned just a moment ago. Founded in 1575, it provided a secluded home for around 40 nuns of the Clarisses order. The convent remained active until 1810, when the King of Naples implemented secularization laws that dissolved many religious institutions. Today it's a peaceful area used for restoration work and artistic pursuits. Below we enter number 4, the Nuns' Cemetery. This series of chambers were used for a macabre yet deeply symbolic funeral practice. They housed walled draining seats where the lifeless bodies of the deceased were placed. Over time the body's flesh would decompose and their fluids were collected in special vases. This practice stemmed from a religious belief that the body was of no real importance, surviving only as a vessel for the spirit. The lack of individual burial further reinforces the idea that the physical body has no lasting value in comparison to the eternal soul. Quite a creepy place, and one that we were glad to leave as we enter the sunshine of the belvedere of the convent. Again, here there are fantastic views down to the bridge we crossed on the way in. So time for a pit stop as we retraced our steps back a little way and arrive at number 6, the Cafe of the Monastery. A great place to relax a while under the shade of the parasols and trees, with amazing views over the ruins of the Cathedral of the Assunta, which we'll visit later on. Here's some of the items on offer with prices as well. Refreshed now, we move on to area number 7, the House of the Sun. This historic structure within the castle now serves as a space for both ancient relics and modern art installations, blending the past and the present. We explored the structure where we discovered scenic paths and terraces with stunning views. So let's move on now and we'll climb up through the gardens to number 8, the Church of St. Pietro a Pantaniello. This church derives its name from the statue of the saint that originally came from a small abandoned church situated on a hill near what is now the harbour of Ischia. During that time the area was a small lake called Pantaniello, meaning the small marsh. In 1851, Ferdinand II of Bourbon, King of Naples, cut through the side of the lake to open it to the sea, transforming it into a harbour. This church has a distinctive hexagonal plan, and it has remained a significant historical and religious site since its opening for worship. Right next door is the millstone for winemaking and the wine cellars. Once the threat of pirate raids had diminished in the 18th century, the land here was repurposed and the people cultivated grapevines, making use of the fertile land and favourable climate. This agricultural transformation breathed new life into the area, as the ruins were gradually overtaken by vineyards, marking a shift from the castle's former defensive and communal role to one of agricultural productivity. This cultivation of grapevines also played a part in Ischia's long-standing tradition of winemaking, connecting the island's agricultural practices with its rich history. We're now walking along the so-called Millstone Alley, which is number 10 on our tour. It's a beautiful tree-lined walk, providing shade from the sun and a view of the gardens. At the end of the walk we approached the Bourbon prison, stop 11 on our tour. In 1823 the Bourbons of Naples converted a pre-existing building into a prison on the island. This prison gained particular historical significance in 1851 when it became a holding place for political prisoners during the Italian Risorgimento, a period of intense efforts to unify Italy. Among those imprisoned were prominent figures, along with other distinguished supporters of Italian unification. These political prisoners were held alongside common criminals, reflecting the regime's strict crackdown on opposition, highlighting the severity of the Bourbon rule and the sacrifices made by those fighting for Italy's independence. There is a sombre wooden board with names of those imprisoned here in one of the rooms. We escaped the prison to walk among the olive trees in the olive terrace, stop number 12 on our journey. This is the former castle garden and offers a stunning 300-degree view of the Gulf of Naples and the crystal clear waters surrounding the island. It provides a peaceful and scenic setting for visitors, and on a clear day like today, views of Ischia, Procida, Mount Vesuvius and the island of Capri. The stronghold dominates impressively behind the garden, but is sadly not part of the tour. So we retrace our steps a little and head to the Terrace restaurant. This is the highest part you can access in the normal tour of the complex and affords some amazing views out to sea and across to Capri Island. You can opt to sit inside the pleasant interior of the cafe if you wish, but we certainly thought the views outside were well worth opting for an outside table. The The only way is down from the cafe, and we're making our way now to stop number 14 on our tour. The Church of St. Maria della Grazie was built in the early 16th century. It was dedicated to the congregation of fishermen from Ischia due to its striking position overlooking the sea. And it is this prominent location which made it a meaningful spiritual refuge for the local fishing community, who sought the protection of the Virgin Mary before venturing out to sea. And just outside the church is the ancient defence and watchtower, which is stop number 15. From here you can look out across the Gulf of Naples once more, and make your way down a steep flight of steps into the tower structure to experience what it would be like to keep watch from here. Now we're heading along the footpath of the sun, amongst the Mediterranean plants that once provided food for the castle residents. Views of the sunset from here are said to be spectacular. This walk leads to the St. Cristofaro steps, so called as they once led to a small church dedicated to the saint. This is now being lost in the past, but the steps take us down lower to continue our journey. They bring us down to another church. This time it's the Church of the Madonna della Libera, representing stop 18. Built in the 12th century, the church served as the parish for St. Nicola. In 1301, during the last eruption of Mount Epomeo, the people of Ischia vowed to dedicate the church to the Madonna, naming it Madonna of the Liberator, in gratitude for the protection during the disaster. The Madonna is depicted in the church with outstretched hands, symbolically blocking the flow of volcanic lava. Their church remains a historical and spiritual significant building, representing a site of refuge and devotion for the islanders during times of crisis. This is all that remains of the Temple of the Sun, not much at all, and it just moves us on quickly to step 21, the balcony of the temple, that gives us some more views of Ischia Island. We've now travelled right round the castle complex, and after negotiating some more steps up and then some more back down again, we arrive at what we thought was the most impressive part of the tour, the Cathedral of the Assunta. The cathedral, built by the people of Ischia following the devastating volcanic eruption of Arso in 1301, was constructed to replace the existing cathedral on the Insular Major. It was actually erected over a pre-existing chapel, which was subsequently transformed into the cathedral's crypt, and we'll check that out in a moment. Originally designed in the Romanesque style, the cathedral features distinctive pillars integrated into square pilasters. In the 15th century it was remodelled to reflect the architectural tastes of the time, with additional embellishments made in the 18th century. Tragically, the cathedral collapsed in 1809 due to the cannon fire from English forces, which destroyed much of the castle and its buildings, which were under French control at the time. Currently a restoration project is underway to preserve the remarkable 18th century stucco works, ensuring that this important historical site continues to be appreciated by future generations. And now we make our way down under the cathedral to the crypt. Dedicated to St. Peter, this crypt was constructed between the 11th and 12th centuries. It began as a chapel, but was later transformed into a crypt following the establishment of the cathedral above it. The crypt features a central area with cross vaults, surrounded by 7 barrel-vaulted chapels. One of its most significant aspects is the series of frescoes from the 14th century, which are of considerable artistic value. Unfortunately, the frescoed walls have suffered damage during the period of state ownership of the castle from 1865 to 1911. This era also saw the looting of stone blocks and marble inscription plaques from both the crypt and the cathedral above. Currently, a thorough restoration project is underway aimed at enhancing and preserving these invaluable frescoes, which stand as a testament to the rich artistic heritage of the region. And that brings us to the end of the tour around the castle complex. It was a time to find the exit and head down the many steps we had climbed at the start of our visit. Before we leave though, just a note on the bathroom facilities. There are many toilets around the castle which in our experience were all very clean and well stocked. A real testament to the standard of care taken by the current owners to make your visit a pleasurable one down to the smallest details. And with that we make our way down and out of the castle and across the bridge back to Ischia Island. Thanks for watching and joining us on the tour of the castle. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. See you on the next one.